welcome to the Meet Your Species podcast. My name is Heath, and today we have Tasha. Tasha, we met from your super fun husband, Ahmad, from way back. And it has just been a real treat getting to know you. Like, even though I've been traveling a lot and stuff, you guys just have something special. So I'm really glad to have you on today.
Yeah, well, I'm just so glad that you can be here today. This is yet another thing that you do. So it's great to kind of learn a little bit more about you, too, to just see, one of your many talents. So I'm glad you could be here today. Yeah.
I think maybe since the cars, we'll just pull your mic a little bit closer to you.
Okay.
Boo-ba-doo-ba-doo. How's that? Good? All right. And for anyone listening, we're outside on her lovely porch. She's got this like amazing garden oasis, but there's also some cars. So enjoy. Anyways.
Sorry, I didn't even mention that, but is that going to be an issue? Is that going to be okay?
No, I think it's fine. Like, we were checking, so I think it's okay. Anyway, so if you're ready, let's just dive on in, shall we?
All right. Let's get started.
So on these podcasts, I really like to just kind of get to know people. Like, you know how when you watch a movie and then you get to know a new character, at first you don't know how you feel about them, and then you learn their background story and you just kind of fall in love with them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's what this is. We just want to know who you are.
All right.
So let's start from where are you from?
Well, I'm a military brat, so we kind of traveled all over, and I grew up in South Georgia.
So you said you're a military brat, right? So tell me about like your parents. What are they like? What kind of people are they?
Well, my parents, my dad is from Mobile, Alabama, and he was in the United States Air Force, and he met my mom in the Philippines, and then had 3 girls. And
so you got sisters.
He never got the son that he always wanted, but he had the 3 of us. And so growing up in a house with all women, I'm sure that was just an amazing experience for him. But
oh, I know what that's like. I got 3 sisters.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just a lot of fun, a lot of fighting, us women growing up together. But I was born in Crete, Greece, and so we lived there for about a year, and then we moved to Guam, and then we eventually moved to Valdosta, Georgia, which is where I spent majority of my childhood.
So kind of like paint a picture for me. Because if someone who didn't have any of those traveling experiences, they don't know what it's like to have military parents or something. Like, what's that like? What are the things that make you think of things like that?
I think that one of the best things about growing up in the military is that you're exposed to a lot of diversity. I think that it's more like it feels like a community because everybody's kind of there to support one another. Especially when you live on like a military base, there's just always other children around, and because there's just so much diversity, there's just a different relationship that you're able to have with the people around you. So I think that was, for me, one of the best thing is just being exposed to different people, and just at different points, because most people moved so often that I think that a lot of us just it just built like a strength in just being well adjusted to different environments.
Yeah.
So I know that I always just kind of reflect back on just my upbringing, and I just always recognize that those were just really the best qualities of being in the military is, the diversity.
So what's a base like as a kid? I've only seen them in movies, right?
The military bases, I was only there when I was younger, so I don't remember a whole lot about it. A lot of it is what I've seen on the videos, but, they're pretty standard. In the military, everything is kind of in perfect order. So, it was just small homes. I honestly, though, don't remember a whole lot about it, though, because I was just so young. But, I think that, you have you just have like some of the typical like daily regimens, like when they would play they would play music at a certain time of day where no matter where you were, you would have to stop and put your hand on your heart and, until the music finishes. So.
Was it like the Pledge of Allegiance or something? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it was like the Pledge of Allegiance.
Did they do the like trumpet to wake you up? Or is
they did have something that would kind of let you know that it was getting ready to start, but it was just something that we were just kind of all we were just kind of standardized in a certain way that we just kind of knew just the order of things.
Do you think it gave you a sense of discipline?
I think my dad is very disciplined. He's a certain way with time. He's just a certain way with things that I think with me anyway, he tried to be a little bit different, to kind of be a little bit more hands off, to kind of let me develop into my own person. But I think that me seeing the way that he was about his day-to-day and his life, I was able to kind of adopt a lot of the way that he was, even though he wasn't very like structured with me per se. It was just mainly seeing him
just like how he is.
Yeah, just him being himself allowed me to really learn that way. But he wasn't really like that with us, with his children.
Tell me about your sisters. Like, what kind of people are they? Or what's your relationship like?
My sisters, so I'm the baby in the family. Yes. So I was always the one that they would see as the one who's spoiled. My two older sisters, they used to just get in so much trouble growing up. And I think that that's where I got a lot of my learnings from of, no, I'm not going to do that. They just really taught me. I just learned to be different because they just were just always getting into trouble. And
like what? Like, what's a good story?
Well, it always related to boys in some way. So, they would just always, my oldest sister, she would steal the car, like things like that.
Rebel?
She was definitely a rebel. My middle sister, she would do the same things, but she just kind of was under the radar a little bit. She would do just as much as my older sister, but she just kind of flew under the radar. But they just gave my parents so much trouble that by the time I came along, I just wanted to do things differently. I just kind of learned from their experience, to just be different. They both had children at young ages, and which for me, I've been blessed to have a lot of my nieces and nephews in my life, so it was really a blessing for me because I was always surrounded by children, but I also saw how difficult it was for them to get their life started, with their careers and the things that they wanted to do for themselves. So it just, it just showed me that I just wanted to do things differently because it just was so difficult for them. So, so that played a lot into what I decided to do with my life.
What's your favorite memory, like growing up with them?
My favorite memory, I have a lot. My middle sister, she was very supportive of me because for whatever reason, me and my older sister would always bump heads, probably because we were so much alike in a lot of ways. So, I just remember, us always, we shared a room together for a while, but I just remember those moments where she and I could connect And, she would just be there for me, in some of my hard moments, with me and my older sister fighting so often, she was just kind of like my refuge. So, I just remember just those heart-to-heart moments that we would have, in our room together. I don't know if there's any one specific moment, but, I just know that, there was just a lot of activity in our house, and that my middle sister was just she was just like my best friend at that time, But yeah, it was just really interesting.
So you said your mom's from the Philippines, right?
Right.
So what's she like?
My mom, she's with her upbringing, growing up, in poverty, she started working at the age of 9,
Oh, wow.
so that she could help support her family. And so, she is always talking about how she had to work so hard that she often feels like she didn't really have a childhood, because she just had to start working at such a young age. So quite naturally, as we're growing up, she didn't want for us to be able to. She wanted for us to have a better life. So she's always been pushing for us to go to school and get our education so that we can be able to make money and not have to worry about a lot of the things that she experienced. So she's I think with my sisters, she was really strict with them. And I think that by the time I came along, I think that she just kind of saw the result of just really pushing them too hard, that it just kind of made them rebellious. So I think when it came to me, she just had a really different approach. Still pushing for me to do more, to get my education. So, but she just had a different approach, because I think she realized that, that other way just really didn't work. So, but my mom, she really is my biggest hero, just purely because of what she had to endure and how it just really made her very strong, and she's my biggest support now, that I made it my priority to help them in the Philippines. And so, she and I kind of work together to, we send these bayan boxes out with clothing and shoes, candy, food, but, she helps me with that initiative, so that we can help provide to them, so that, things can be a little bit easier for them in the Philippines.
So what was it like for her growing up? I assume Philippines has changed a bit since she was growing up, but what's that life like?
Well, she lives a little differently than they do in the village now, where her family is now, because she grew up in more of a city environment. Actually, she started out, it was more like a beach environment, but then she moved more like to a city environment. But, she always speaks highly of it. She just, I think she recognizes that it was kind of a great thing, that it helped develop her. But it was tough. She always talks about her dad, who I think was her biggest influence. He was a carpenter, and, every day he would go to the city to see, different jobs that he could do, how he could help people. And, he didn't earn much, but she would always say how he would always come home every day and bring them candy or just bring them like whatever food he was able to gather so he can bring it home to the kids. Because I think my mom probably made more money than he did, you know, because she helped work at this shop with her older sister. And she also sold like cigars. You know, it's just interesting to learn so much more about her now because she was like a little hustle woman, like she really was. You know, she tells me stories today about how she had the cigars wrapped around her waist underneath her clothes to smuggle them in, but she was a child. But, you know, they used the children because no one really questions the kids like that. But, you know, it's just really interesting to just hear some of the stories that she has about the way she grew up and how she survived. But, you know, she is a happy woman. I love that about her because even though she's had these experiences, it didn't make her bitter. So, you know, she's just a joyful woman. And, you know, she helps us to develop a mindset so that we can just make the most of things and make the best of things.
How would you describe, because I imagine there's a little bit of culture difference from the way your dad grew up and the way your mom grew up. So how would you describe the two cultures? And
I think it's a great blend. They are very different. I think my mom, no matter how long she's ever been here, she still can't understand the way Americans are.
yeah, but in what way? Apart from not using metric.
Oh man, just every way. I think that, you know, for her, I think it's just she still has culture shock. She hasn't quite adjusted in that way. I think that their perception of Americans is, you know, we don't work as hard, or maybe not grateful for the things that we have, feeling that, you know, we really have so much, you know, and just feeling like, you know, that we don't really understand what it really means to not have. And, you know, because even when you go over there, you realize that it was kind of crazy when I was looking at this sign that was at a McDonald's, and they asked for a 2-year degree to apply, you know, because there's just...
For McDonald's?
For McDonald's. Yeah.
Why?
Because there's just not really any jobs available. And so, I mean, I guess maybe that's their way to kind of screen things. But that was what they asked for, was like a 2-year degree to apply. And there's just not really a lot of jobs available. What you'll find is a lot of people will just, especially like when they see tourists, they'll just try to see what odd end jobs they can do for you so that they can earn some money, because there's just not really like a consistent place that they can go and work. Yeah. So I think, you know, me going over there and seeing that, it helped open my eyes up so that I had a better appreciation for what we have here. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think that has just been the biggest divide as far as her not being able to understand maybe the way we live, you know, kind of feeling like she was forced into this culture that she doesn't really agree with, you know, the way we may live our life.
No, I can't say she's wrong for a lot of people here.
Right. You know, I understand a lot of it, you know, but, you know, she just has to kind of accept that, you know, it's just different. You know, we just grew up differently. My dad, on the other hand, I love my dad. He's just silly, you know, and I think that it's not really a lot that bothers him, you know, whereas my mom is, you know, pretty much wanting to keep things in order and in line. And, you know, my dad is pretty much that he just doesn't allow things to bother him. So it's really good to have them, you know, like as a blend. Yeah, it just brings a lot of balance in our family. So, you know, and then, you know, my mom a lot of times tends to be a lot more serious. And, you know, my dad is always joking around. So, you know, it just brings an interesting dynamic for our family. Definitely can't really make a lot of jokes about my mom because she doesn't really know how to laugh about, the jokes. But it's interesting. I got kind of like the best in both parts of them. Opposite, but the best parts that I think that help make me me.
So as you were traveling around growing up, were there people along the way, even if it was just for a short time you were with them, that like had an impact on how you look at things?
For sure. Sabrina, she's actually my oldest sister's best friend, but she definitely had the biggest impact in my life.
Why is that?
She really helped. Like, she's more like my sister now. She's still in my life now. Great thing is she's even, working with my daughter, which I just love that because she just helped for me to have just as a woman. I think that it was just great to have her in my life to just kind of learn what it means to be a woman and what it means because she's so strong. And even as a beautiful person on the inside and out, she just always had values about herself that it was really helpful for me to witness that as a young woman, to see someone in my life just embody being a woman in such a different way than maybe I might have seen in some, like some of the other people around me. So she was just really a great positive influence.
Can you give an example? Like, what kind of values did you really appreciate or learn from? I'm asking because I'm not a woman. I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out I think that I would say it's just self-confidence and self-love is how I would describe it. She just always showed me through her, like, even relationship with men, she just always showed to put herself first. Or even though she is beautiful on the inside and out, that wasn't really her only quality. She didn't, like, only personify the way that she looked. She was very smart. She was also an athlete. And so it was just really cool to see a woman be just so talented in so many other areas and not just riding off the fact that, she looks beautiful, and so I think that was helpful for me to see such a strong woman, especially, because like I said, my sisters, there's just, they both had children at young ages. And, and I think that for her, she was just so different than, maybe what I was seeing in my house. So it was just, it was helpful to just have another perspective on how you can be.
So you went through, grew up in, you said Valdosta, right?
Yeah, Valdosta.
So what's Valdosta like? I've only traveled through once or twice.
Most people just pass through. It's a military town. They also have VSU, Valdosta State University, so it's a college town too. And so a lot of the activities are primarily focused around either the military or the college. But there's not really a whole lot to do there. It's just a typical town in South Georgia.
So what'd you do? What'd you do for fun?
For fun, I was always outdoors. I've just always been a nature girl. I would always be just outside, riding my bike, hanging out with my friends. But there just really wasn't a whole lot to do there.
Did you ever see the Okefenokee Swamp?
I actually haven't.
When I moved to Georgia, I heard this name, Okefenokee, and I was like, why is that a name? And I have to go. And I still haven't gone yet.
I haven't been yet. I've heard good things about it. but we haven't been. It's not too far from Valdosta, but
Yeah, you were so close.
yeah. So it's one of the places that I know I definitely want to take Cairo one day, but we haven't made that trip just yet. So maybe sometime soon.
Cool. So then you went to school. Why, you said Georgia Southern, right? Mm-hmm. Why there, and what did you think you wanted to do when you went?
Honestly, when I graduated, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And really, it's going to sound crazy, but I picked Georgia Southern because my friends were going there. I never even visited the college, so, it's pretty shallow reasons why I went. But I ended up really getting a lot of it out of it. It was a really great experience. But when I graduated, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And, I think a lot of it was just feeling like that was what I was supposed to do. But I ended up changing my major twice, or actually 3 times.
So what'd you change from?
So I started out biology.
Why biology? Just because?
Because I had to pick something, if I can be honest. But, I really thought I wanted to work in, the health field. And that was the major that, that they advised me to take. And then I just recognized that this was just not something I wanted to do. It just wasn't even me.
Didn't want to dissect frogs and...
No, it wasn't quite. I mean, I like that aspect, but it's just professionally, I didn't think that I wanted to work in the health field anymore. I think that it was literally just an answer that sounded like a good answer. And
Gotcha.
I ended up changing it to psychology, which I really loved. I did it for about a year, and it's just a topic that I still love to learn about today. But I think that my reason for changing it was not because I didn't like it, but because I just knew that there would be so much schooling involved to get a career in that field. So I decided to change it to business, and the focus was accounting. And I ended up getting my degree in accounting, and then I also got my master's in accounting as well. And even though it was something that was really new, because I really didn't even know what accounting was, it ended up being something that was just very helpful for me to learn about, to be able to get more of a background in business, because I was the first person in my family to even go to college. And so to be able to learn a field that I actually had an uncle who was also an accountant. He was the one who advised me to make that decision, so that I would be able to make money for myself when I graduated school. So
what do you like about accounting?
It's just straightforward. I think that, your debits equals your credits. It's just straightforward. And so it just helped me to learn about finances and
Count the beans.
Budgeting money. I think that, me having, I've always been an artist, but I think for someone like myself, it just really helped me to be able to cultivate the other side of my brain. I think that it just really made me the best that I could be, because I was able to learn just something else besides, just being a great artist, learning.
Well, that's the biggest struggle for a lot of artists, right? Like,
it
how do you do the
really
business
is.
side?
And this is what I know. And I can understand, how it can be like that, which is why I'm so grateful for the field that I chose. But most artists don't really have that business background. But, there's a reason why they're always considered, broke artists, because they just never really learned that business side, So, I mean, it's just been pivotal for me to be able to learn that as a trade, and especially practice it in the field for as long as I did. So it was definitely the right decision. And, and I'm always just encouraging people to just continue to learn about business, no matter what field you're in, that it's just helpful for us to know how to manage our money, and I think that it just can help us more on the more practical things in life.
When you were in Georgia Southern, what were the most interesting or like the whole point of going to college is to kind of broaden your horizons and open yourself up, right, to new possibilities. What
Right.
were the moments or people that kind of did that for you?
Well, I definitely have to say Ahmad, my husband. I met a lot of interesting people there. One of my best friends, I met her there. There were just so many memories that, aside from, getting the degree, it's just the experience that you get from being around other kids who are trying to figure it out, really don't know what they're doing. It helped to have that kind of a community of people who we really don't know what we're doing, but we're figuring it out together. It's a party school. I didn't party a whole lot. I probably partied the most once I met Ahmad, but
Correlation.
him being a party promoter. But I think that just the experience that I had with just the group that I was around was really just the best part about it. Just not having very much, but just kind of struggling together. It just kind of made it all kind of worth it. We also had our daughter while we were there.
Oh, okay.
So that made it even more interesting of an experience. Me passing her off with Ahmad, as he's leaving class and I'm going to class.
Exchanging the football.
We literally exchanged her like a football, it was just, looking back on it now, it's just really funny. It was difficult, I think that once I got pregnant, my mom, especially, a lot of people just didn't think that I would finish quite naturally because there were just so many things that you had to work around. But, we were able to make it work.
Well, I guess becoming a mother is a pretty pivotal moment.
Yeah, becoming a mother while you're in school, it is really hard. But I will say that it is possible. Fortunately, I had a lot of amazing girlfriends at the time that helped babysit and, helped me finish. I think that we were all dedicated that no matter what, we're gonna get her to the graduation, and so I think that it was important for me to finish what I started, but it was just really a blessing to have people in my life that really stepped up and really helped. Because Ahmad ended up having to leave so that he can work. So, I was there without him for a while. And so, like I said, my girlfriends really were helpful in, helping me to raise her during that time so that I could finish.
Okay, we'll come back to Ahmad because I want to know about that. But what did it mean? What changed for you when you found out that you were pregnant or after you gave birth?
Oh, what changed?
I mean, apart from
I guess
the obvious.
maybe just recognizing how challenging it would be. Having another life to care for. I think that when we first got to college, it's just totally different when you haven't figured it out, but it's just you at risk. It's just totally different when you have another life that you have to care for. So I think it really just it actually grew me up a lot faster. Yeah, I didn't really have a choice. But I had no idea of everything that is involved with raising a child. That's while you're in school. I think that prior to me having her, I kind of looked at it the same as my experience with my nieces and nephews, since they were always in my life, since I was young, thinking that it would be the same, but it's just totally different when you can't necessarily pass them off back to their mom. It's just, when it's yours, it's just, you just have to grin and bear it. You have to figure it out, and you got to make it work. Mm-hmm. There's no one you can really pass her off to. Of course, I had people that would help babysit, but ultimately she was my responsibility. So I think that was just the biggest eye-opener. It was just everything that's really involved with really loving and being present with the child. It's just it requires a lot of you to totally be there for your child. And so those were all of the things that I just had to learn along the way. Just had to figure it out.
And what's your favorite thing about having kids?
My favorite thing is, I think that they keep me connected to something that children understand most. I think they keep us youthful, because they're always, a lot easier at being able to stay in the present moment and enjoying the moment than maybe we are as adults. So I think that the best thing is that they're always able to just bring us back into that same element. Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, that's probably my favorite thing about my kids. Is that they help keep me in that same nature.
Yeah. Oh, what's the most difficult or frustrating thing?
Well, I think that, it was a surprise for me to have a daughter, and then having a son, she really made it very easy. I didn't realize that until I had a son. And, he just required me to be totally different than the way that I was. He has ADHD, and and there's just a lot of things that I had to understand first before I can even try to see how I could help him. And it has been a challenge, but like I said, I think that I was given him for a reason, because it required me to be new. It required me to be different, where I'm thinking that I'll be able to just kind of do things the same way that I did before with my daughter, who, like I said, she made it very easy. He just required something different out of me, and I literally had to just be completely new in trying out a new pair of shoes. And I think that having to go through and learning more about some of the challenges that he had, I think that it just made me better as a person. It just allowed me to have probably even more understanding and compassion for just the variety of ways that we can be as humans. So, I'll say that that's been a challenge, but it really has been a blessing, because it really did help develop me to become a better person because of it, a better mom because of it. Mm-hmm.
So let's jump back to Ahmad. How did you guys meet?
How did we meet? We actually met through a friend of his. And, me and Ahmad, how do we meet?
I know, I've heard his side. You gotta tell. I want to see if it matches up.
We met for the first time. I was actually on a date with a friend of his, and that's how we met the first time. But then we ended up, so it never worked out with the friend.
The date.
He's still in our life today. Still a good friend of ours, but he was actually, yes, he was in our wedding, but we laugh about it because obviously that never worked out, and it would have never worked out. But at any rate, we saw each other on campus later, and we just kind of hit it off from there. he took my number. He didn't call for about 2 weeks. I didn't really think he was interested, but then he finally came back around. I think because we saw each other again, it was kind of like, hey, you never called, and we just kind of.
What's the matter for you?
Right. It's just like, what happened with that? But so we ended up really getting to know each other, and he was just so different from. A lot of the people that I had met before.
Like how?
I think that there was just so much confidence that I saw in him that, I really loved that. And I think that I love to see how hard he would hustle. I think that he just was just an amazing businessman, even though he's still in school. I just thought that was just so amazing. It just wasn't something that I was used to. But then he was funny. I think that was, probably the main thing is that, we were just able to be really great friends. And, and I think that that's, been and still is, the most important aspect of our relationship with one another is that that we can laugh together, we can enjoy each other. So, still together after all these years, still together. But
living in a garden,
living the life in the garden.
So you came out, got your hard-earned accounting degree. Where'd you go then?
So after I finished, I started off in Enterprise rent-a-car company, and I wasn't there long. I was there maybe like 9 months, but then my first...
They have you count cars or what?
Not quite counting cars. I remember the coffee. They just had the strongest coffee there, but I guess they had to stay wired. But I had my first real experience working at Bennett Thrasher, which was an accounting firm, actually here in Atlanta. And I just had the most amazing boss that I was able to learn the trade under. She was really phenomenal at what she did. And, she was really the one who taught me a lot of what I know working in that field. So I did that for about 2 years, and then I started working at Turner Broadcasting Company down in Atlanta, and I was there for about 7 years. And so I had probably my most favorite experiences there, being able to learn working at a bigger corporation. And
so like what happened? Turner's a big company, right?
Right. So well, I guess they're not Turner anymore now. They go by a different alias, but I think working there was I probably learned rewind. I forgot what you asked me.
No, what was it about Turner that, like you said, you learned a lot during the 7 years?
I think I love working there because the industry itself is just very interesting. Working in entertainment, you just had a variety of personalities, and I think that's probably what made it the most fun. Mm-hmm. Of course, we did accounting and finance, but I think that it was just mainly because of the industry that it just made it a fun experience while I was there. I actually worked there, and I worked there with my best friend, so that was just another plus, was that I was, working, in such a fun environment, but I was also there with my best friend. So, I think I was able to really learn how to manage people. I think that when you start to manage people, it's very different than when you're just an employee and you're, learning the structure of how to do your job and do it well. It's totally different when now you're leading other people. It just requires a different part of you that I was able to learn a lot of that while I was at Turner, learning how to work as a team and yeah.
Fair enough. That's cool. It's got to be helpful when you got this little army going on at home to manage.
Yeah, I get a lot of practice at home, but.
So, when did all the bloom and all this stuff happen?
Well, I think that it kind of happened by accident. I never was even into gardening growing up. I've always been into nature, but it really was something that was new. But I think that, working in an environment that could get stressful, even though it was enjoyable, there's still just stress involved. And I just always found myself in the garden, and it just became a hobby. But I recognize now that, it really was kind of therapy for me. I didn't recognize it then, but I just always found myself after work in the garden. And I made my first terrarium, and it was just something that was just so fun that I just wanted to make it into a business. And so that's really how we started, was making terrariums. So eventually we started to sell online, which is kind of what helped really turn it into a real business. Mm-hmm. Selling terrariums is more like art. So, that is just, there's not that turnover that you necessarily may get from art versus when we started selling online. It just kind of turned the business model into something different. Mm-hmm. So, we started selling air plants online, actually listed our first plant and really didn't think much of it. I just really didn't think I just didn't know that it would work. I just tried it out. Honestly, didn't even know if it would even survive in the box. I just listed it. And then, our first month we sold like 3. And then the next month it was like maybe 20. And then after that, it just kind of took off from there. Mm. And,
20, that's got to feel good. That's like what? Except 10 days, that's almost every day.
Yeah, I mean, it started off like really, I was really just surprised because I really didn't even think that it would work. Like I said, I didn't even know that it would even survive inside the box, but they did. So it just kind of changed our business model a little bit once we were able to, it went from, making terrariums to now being an online plant store. Mm-hmm. And so, that was able to kind of help build us up. And, it was actually one of the reasons why I eventually left Turner so that I can focus on building up our online shop.
Oh, so you just did this on the side and it slowly...
I started off doing it on the side. Actually, for the longest, I was doing the terrariums. And then it wasn't too much longer after we started our online store that eventually I just decided to leave Turner so that I can focus on our online store full time. So
that's cool. So you mentioned way back you were an artist anyway, right?
Right.
What kind of art did you originally get into?
Well, I would always draw, and that was pretty much my biggest hobby growing up, was just drawing. But I'm sure you probably know as well that a lot of times you tend to see that you can bring that into a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
And so, me being able to practice that same artistry through the terrariums just became a really great outlet for me. But especially because it was just new to learn about plants. I was not a gardener at all before. My mom's not even a gardener, but
Good thing you had that semester of biology. Right.
there you go. See, it came in handy. It came back around. But, it really became just a really great release to build the terrariums, but to just really see how you can plant life inside of a glass and actually watching it grow, because the terrariums are set up to be like a miniature greenhouse. So, it's just really neat to see how you can plant life in there and just watch it grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you can get really fancy with them too. So, I would always look for inspiration through other terrarium makers, and I just would try to kind of mirror what they were doing, and I would just kind of practice, and then eventually I was able to just kind of make it into my own, make it my own way.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot like guitar or any other instrument. Like first you just get some other music and try and play that, and then you're like, okay, and then you start improvising.
Making it into your own. Yeah.
That's cool. So what else do you do? Like what's a day in the life of you right now?
On a day-to-day, I feel like I do a lot of different things. I kind of bounce around. I think one of my other favorite things to do is just listening to music, dancing. I have like my daily rituals that I practice that kind of help the rest of my day flow. I start my day with my yoga practice, of course. And then I read for a little bit, and just try to have kind of like a smooth start to my day. And then, the rest of my days tend to be kind of busy, where I'm, working the online store. I was also homeschooling Cairo, which was new. It was just something that started after the pandemic. I started homeschooling him. So that really took priority for a while. Everything else kind of had to take the back burner as we kind of transitioned to get him, acclimated to homeschool.
Yeah.
Me being his teacher.
Was Talia also doing homeschool?
She did virtual school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was still taking classes, but she was just taking them at home. Where Cairo,
I was like full.
he started out doing virtual school, and it just really wasn't working for him, especially with him having ADHD. So it was just not a good adjustment for him. So that's why I took him out and started homeschooling him. And so that really took priority. So, I really had been spending a lot of my time just trying to see how to be the best teacher for him. And then everything else kind of had to fall in line with that. And so
naturally.
So yeah, that would pretty much be my day-to-day, is just trying to balance that packaging order in between time and, still wanting to, fulfill the customer's needs. And so, it can get pretty busy on a day-to-day, but I think that starting my days with my practice and, just kind of easing into things is what helps the rest of my day flow the way that it does.
So with this whole pandemic thing, in what ways has this situation changed your life? Obviously, homeschooling.
This actually changed a lot. I think that it just made us better as a family unit, mainly because we were all stuck in one house together. Whereas before, maybe we were all kind of doing our own thing, going to, school or different places. I think that us all being quarantined in the house just allowed us to grow deeper as a family. it allowed us to really work through some of the things that maybe we didn't notice before or just didn't have the time to work through before, that since we were together, we just have been able to really flush things out and like really flush out some real solutions. And just being better, just a better family. Learning to communicate, learning to listen, building patience. There's really so many great things that came out of it that it really just has been a blessing. It just almost feels like we have to create new norms, because it's like, if this works so well, we have to carry, now that the pandemic is, kind of at a different phase, we want to carry a lot of new norms into it so that we can just bring a lot of the things that really work and, let them stick.
Keep it worked. I like it.
Yeah, keep it working.
So I feel like we've kind of caught up to present day. So let's just talk about more present stuff. Like, when you meet new people, what are the qualities or characteristics that you really value in someone?
When I meet new people,
or even the things you value in the friends you already have?
I would say, that's a good question. Let me think about that. I think just authenticity, just being your authentic self. I think that I've spent a lot of time developing myself to be a better person and showing up as, a better person than maybe I was before. I think that, it's helpful to be surrounded by other people that are also doing the same. Just continuing to work on yourself. None of us are perfect, but just striving to just every day be better. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that that's an important quality in a friend, or just, even, the people that you surround yourself with, that they just have that desire to just want to be more. Mm-hmm. On a day-to-day, when I meet people out, I really just try to, myself personally, just enjoy the moment, and not necessarily require anything other than just enjoying the moment, having, great dialogue, great conversations. They don't necessarily have to be deep, but just, just enjoying the chemistry of the moment. Mm-hmm.
Whenever you have a conflict, just generally with somebody, how do you try and deal with it?
First, I meditate. I think that one of the things that, like growing up, my mom, she used to always say, "You have a bad attitude." I would pop off. So I think that I've gotten a lot better about that, to just being better about thinking about things before I say it, especially if it's something that's, like a big conflict. I really just try to approach it differently. Practice patience. I think that I've also had to practice how to really speak my mind, though. I think that that's probably one of the things that I haven't always been good at. I would bottle a lot of it in until it would just get to a breaking point. Mm-hmm. And so I've just tried to learn to communicate sooner and more clearly, maybe with less attachment to anything, but just wanting to be able to communicate how I may feel, but more just, not letting things fester.
Yeah.
And, just really, and then just being honest,
Can I ask more about that? Because
Sure.
I find this is a very common thing with a lot of people. They're oftentimes either afraid of conflict or don't want to disturb the social situation or
Right.
whatever. There's so many reasons why, but people often don't speak up. So what is it that helps you break out of that mold?
I feel like it was something that I really had to learn. And I didn't really do it in the best way in the beginning. I would always mirror my best friend at the time, how she would handle things, because like I said, I needed to learn how to be more vocal. And so because I didn't necessarily know how to do that naturally, I would almost mirror how other people handle it until I recognized that it just wasn't me. It wasn't really my way. So I had to really just develop that over time. And, I had experiences that really kind of pulled it out of me. It was almost like it was meant to happen because it was grooming me to, it's just like, okay, you have to learn how to do this and do it in your way, the way that you would communicate things. So it just really took practice, and just a lot of inner work, on really just checking in with myself on, did I really handle that in a way that I feel good about? And, if it would be like an ongoing relationship, I would have to just continue to work on it, and just building better communication with that person. And, but just mainly trying it because, maybe before I would keep it bottled in, but I recognize that it's just not healthy to do that. So I just really had to just continue practicing in spite of how uncomfortable I may have felt.
Yeah. I don't remember where I heard this from. It might have been a movie, or maybe it was something else. But anyways, someone said something to the effect of, in terms of conflict resolution, this is the context, she was saying, yeah, maybe it's scary to deal with the situation or even like very difficult, but not dealing with it is going to be difficult for a long period of time, and this is just one moment.
Right. I think that, and this is something that I really started trying to do a lot more recently, is just talking about things sooner. Talking about things sooner, because first the conversations, they're just easier on the front end because because you don't just allow things to fester. So, I think that that's been a real game changer. And then I think doing that also prevents maybe it prevents you talking yourself out of doing it because you've kind of let it fester, and then you're just like, okay, I'm just not going to worry about it. But I think that, I recognized over time that it's just not healthy to do that. So in spite of how uncomfortable it felt to do something new and different for me, I just had to learn how to do it. I didn't really come from a family that they don't like conflict in that way. So, my mom is always the type to say, be nice, but there's just times where it's just like, being nice doesn't necessarily mean that you can't stick up for yourself. There just are moments in life where that approach just doesn't really work. So, I just had to learn a new way to be and learn how to communicate, and actually working through the issues, because I have found that it always tends to work out in the end because you've brought it up for a resolution, and I just think that that's just the best approach, is to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it helps too that my practice and my meditation, I think that that definitely helps because it's allowed me to be maybe less tied to my emotions, and working more towards growth and solution. But I think that it just helps. I think that my practice has helped change the tone so that getting through those types of conflicts has become easier because I've become more patient or understanding throughout this time.
Fair enough. When you think of your kids, what have you learned from them?
Talia is very emotionally intelligent. She's very sensitive too, but she's very compassionate in a way that I admire. And I think that I've learned to be a better person through her because she's just connected in a way that is helpful. She's like a refuge, or maybe she's like a safe space for people where they feel that they can talk to her and with no judgment, And so, I always appreciate that about her is just her compassion and her ability to understand. Cairo, he's such a spark. I think that through him, he just has taught us to remain fun. Anytime things may get too serious or too much of a conflict, he just always has a way to just bring us out of it. And I love it because he's just naturally like a high vibrational being, and I just realized through him that we've learned joy and I just think that that's so important because it's through remembering that helps us to be able to get through some of the challenges. So I would definitely say that he's just a big bonus to the family in that way because he helps, I think, in some way, he's the connector for all of us. So that's what I've learned from him, is to just remember joy.
Did they get along?
They do. They do get along. I love their relationship. I think they've actually gotten closer over the pandemic. He has his moments where he'll go and he'll just hang out in her room, and really this time has really brought them closer together, where before maybe they just kind of did their own things because there's such an age gap, but I think that they've gotten closer over this time just because they've been able to hang out, watch movies together, play video games together. So they have a cute little relationship.
When you think about not just your future, but even their future and what's going on in the world, what are the things that maybe you're excited about for them that maybe you didn't have? Or on the other hand, something you're concerned about?
I think the landscape is just changing, continues to change, so that things are just so different than it was for us growing up, that, my biggest thing is just wanting to teach them to think for themselves, to be innovative, and to be solution-oriented, because we don't really know the direction of things. Like technology today is going to be obsolete, in a year or two, so it's just kind of like, do we really know, if what we're teaching them in school, is this even going to matter, when they graduate? What kind of jobs are even going to be available? Because, everything is really changing. So I think that they have just a different circumstance than what we had to experience growing up. So, and we still really don't know, what it's going to be like, when they become adults. But I think that the most important thing is to just teach them to have a positive mindset. And so that no matter what happens, they're able to just kind of see the bright side so they can work towards, whatever solution may be necessary. But I think it's important for them to mainly learn how to think for themselves, have their own perspectives and not necessarily feeling like they need to adopt the opinions of the people around them. And, I'm excited for them because I do feel like they're really great at that, to just kind of see where they are now. I really feel confident about who they are, within this world that they live in. So I'm actually excited to see what decisions they choose for themselves. I think that they're still, Talia, she's getting ready to graduate, in a year, but I think she's still trying to figure out what exactly it is she wants to do. I think that because I remember not knowing what I was going to do at that age, I don't really have any expectations, I really want her to just kind of figure it out on her own. But just trusting that wherever she lands is, where she should be.
Is there any, how do I say, like a kind of wisdom from previous generations that you think is really applicable now? I notice a lot of people, either they have maybe grandparents or something who've there's just a different wisdom from a different time that's really relevant, and then some people don't have that. So is there anything that you think is worth passing on?
I always remember the things that my mom shares with me. There's just certain things that are always consistent. She'll always, tell us to be strong, no matter what we're going through. So I guess just through her, I'm able to always have hope, no matter what my circumstances are, because I know that I am a strong woman. And so I think that her guidance has really just been important. I think that through my dad, it allows me to remember to keep my faith. And, through him, I'm able to recognize that there is something truly bigger than me. And, and it's helpful. And it's most helpful, when you're in challenging situations to remember, the higher purpose of things. But, like I said, my mom is really my biggest, she really is my hero because, I've just seen her overcome so much. And to still really have a positive attitude about it all. Her working at such a young age, she's really, really where I probably get my business, my business acumen from her. Because she's just really a hustle woman. And so she's just, I think she's just really taught me indirectly just how to make money. Just no matter what your circumstances, of just being able to just make it work out and just to just keep trying at things, to not feel defeated because of your circumstances, but to make it work for you.
So, looking at the future, what do you think the next couple years or so hold for you?
Well, biophilia has been an area of study that I've really gotten into, recognizing the wellness that comes from the plants. You know, it's interesting because when I started, I had no knowledge of any of this stuff. It was just something that I just kind of gravitated to, and just recognizing, wow, you know, I'm spending all this time in the garden, but not recognizing that in the process, it was just changing me in a way. I was learning from the plants as I'm working with the plants. And so...
Sorry, what is biophilia?
So biophilia is our natural, like as humans, it's our natural tendency to want to be around plant life. Mm-hmm. We may not necessarily know how it's affecting us. You know, we may not recognize that being surrounded by plants, that it's meditative. It's teaching us how to have a still mind. You know, it's just, there's so many benefits that come from adding plant life or any, you know, elements of nature inside environments that, you know, the research on it, you know, is fairly new, but, you know, these things are healing us. And, you know, it's just, you know, it's what it affects is it helps our mind state, you know, because we naturally want to be with nature. And, you know, there's just a lot of health benefits that I didn't recognize at the time. So I think for me, I have a more holistic view of how all of these things really are connected. And so what I hope for our business is that we can provide more solutions inside environments that could really benefit the most from it. You know, high stress environments, or just, you know, just environments that just could benefit off of, you know, productivity, you know, creativity, just all the things that the things help. You know, they clean the air. There's so many things that we don't recognize that they do. You know, they just, you know, for us, maybe we like it because they're pretty, but it's like they are actually creating real solutions in your environment as well. And so it's just, it's nice to have the research studies that help provide, you know, the background, you know, the statistics and the information on, you know, what they do, you know, just helps have a better understanding. And so what I hope for our future is that we're able to install more plants inside closed off environments so that they can help, you know, us all be able to be well.
Yeah, and be more alive.
More alive, yeah. You know, the plants, they really are teachers. And, you know, just us being present with them, you know, we're really just embodying that same element within us through the plants. So, you know, it does help to have them in our environment. So I'm hoping that we're able to just share more about the information and just sharing more of plant life.
There was a girl who, through her mom, came to us when we were in Bali. Shrav and I kind of like a little holiday retreat for them. And she was having, like, they put her on the antidepressants and stuff. She's only 13, so this was killing me. So we sat and tried to figure out if we could even help, because yoga wasn't super attractive to her at all. So, like, okay, what can we do? And I started learning a bit about like the bacteria in her skin and how in the soil it's kind of boosts all of that. You just kind of be in the soil, be in nature, right? And there's other aspects like waterfalls actually have something called, well, there's something in the air called a negative oxygen ion, and it it's in different levels based on where you're at. Like in a city, it's pretty low. In a more rural area where there's more trees and stuff, it's much higher. But then under a waterfall, like a nice tall waterfall, it creates a whole bunch of them, like way, way, way more. And these negative oxygen ions, the brain uses to create things like serotonin and other stuff that balances our brains. So we started figuring this out, and we're like, oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to tell her this, but we'll just take her to these places and have her do this. And it worked. I mean, we did quite a few things, but we only had like maybe, 10 days with her, something like that. And we gave her a simple practice that she agreed to do and stuff. But her mom texted us later, like, she was feeling so much better. The family dynamic was improving, like little things. She's still 13, but, you know, just made a world of difference. And it just blew my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it works, you know, and the great thing is that they have the studies that can really show that they actually work. But, you know, nature's amazing. You know, there's so many solutions that are just literally right outside that, you know, just getting sunlight, you know, recognizing that the plants are so much, there's an aspect that is the same within us. You know, a lot of the requirements that they need, we also need. But, you know, they provide solution to a lot of the issues that we're seeing today, but we just don't know about it. We just don't know. Or, you know, maybe we're just so used to a quick fix, you know, or, just used to some of the things that we've just kind of learned as a society that this is how we should treat these things. But, you know, I think that the more we learn, the better that we can be as a society. The more we learn about how these natural solutions really can help improve our quality of life, so that we know to include them within our environment. You know, it's just purely because we just don't have the information that can be helpful to know.
Fair enough. Well, is there any, I guess, like a final message or anything you'd like to say?
I think the most valuable things that I've learned may not translate into what may be of value on the outside to everyone else. I think that I've learned that self-care has been the most important thing. Like learning how to truly nourish ourselves so that we can be better for everyone else. And, you know, there's just not a monetary value on that, but it's truly the most important thing. You know, I think that we have to learn what that really means, which I think plants teach us that on some aspect. You know, through nourishing another life outside of yourself, you're learning, you know, because plants can show you what they need and don't need too. And so I think that the plants help for us to learn what that truly means so that we can direct that same energy back within ourselves. I think that, you know, it's just really important that we're able to nourish our soul. And that can help us to be better externally. So, just more self-care. I just think that, you know, we just have to sometimes remember that, be reminded of that to put ourselves first, that it's okay. It may seem selfish, but it really is the most amazing thing that you can do for anybody is for you to do their inner work, to be better so that you can be better for everyone else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Can't think of a better note to end on. So with that, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on and letting us get to know you a little better.
Yes.
If anyone wants to check out your plants, you have like your online store, where do they go?
So our website is allthebloom.com, and then you can also find us on Instagram, also All the Bloom, and check us out.
All the bloom for all the bloom.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much. Thanks.